Hey, aloha everyone, welcome. Very happy to be reconnecting with you again this week. This is Paul Fletcher, and this is my podcast, The Healing Source. Today's date is February 1, 2023, and this is season 3, podcast number 2. So we've moved into a new season. The first season was on Tao healing for all things physical. This new season is for the second season, which we just completed, was Tao healings for your emotional body. And now we are moving into the mental body. And last week I did a show on the connectivity between the heart and the mind and its association between the 4th, 5th, and 6th chakras. This week we're going to focus on what is the root cause of mental imbalances. So that gives you a good idea of what you can expect for today's show. It will only be about a half hour, but I really look forward to hearing from you, your thoughts on this. Do subscribe to my podcasts. I also have this at my website, wellspringoflight.com, and you can go there and learn more. Of course, as with everything I do, there are quite a few services that you can receive that can assist you with transforming your mental or emotional or physical pains or suffering. And in fact, just about any part of your life I can benefit you. But let's go ahead and connect for what the subject matter is today. So what is a mental imbalance according to the Tao wisdom? Well, in order to give you that answer, I have to give you a little preface. And some of you, if you are listening to this for the first time, you would benefit from going back to series number 1, where I set the foundation for what is Tao healing and why does it work. So I have to preface a few minutes for those of you that are new listening for the first time. Tao is a word that means source. So Tao healing is source healing. And the Tao wisdom acknowledges that everyone and everything comes from the source, and the Tao wisdom acknowledges that we as a soul, you and I have a soul, that our soul is not temporary. In other words, it's from the beginning of Source Creator through our lifetime and on. So the soul, think of it like a warehouse. It captures, holds, and carries information. And the information that it captures, holds, and carries stays with it. Now, how does it capture it? It captures it through our thoughts, our words, and our actions from this lifetime and from all time. So any thought you've ever had, positive and negative, same for your words, same for your actions, they basically stay within your frequency and vibration. And that then assists you or brings detriment to you in your current life. Meaning, if you have a predominancy of doing harmful things, hurting others, saying or thinking negative things to or about others, then that creates a lot of negativity in your soul's vibrational field. That then creates in your life a tremendous amount of problems. On the other hand, if you were very positive and beneficial in your thoughts, words, and actions, you support others, you help others, you go out of your way, you do your best to think positive things in this lifetime and other ones, then that also is in your field, and that then creates in your life positive and beneficial experiences. So this is the shortest version of how to set the foundation for what is the root cause of mental imbalances. So mental imbalances and the root of them can easily be connected to the negative information, frequency, vibration, and messages that we have in our field. How did they get there? As it was just explained, they got there by bringing those negativities to others. Now, some people might call that karma. You can refer to it as whatever you'd like. But in terms of quantum physics, which we have discussed multiple times in this show, we are quantum entangled with any person just through a thought, obviously through words and through our actions. What does that mean, quantumly entangled? That means that our frequency and vibration interacted with their frequency and vibration. So if we shout at them in anger and they, shrink in fear, Okay, that did not benefit their frequency and vibration. We might feel a little puffed up, but that created an imbalance. It was 100% out of alignment with what is the ideal, which is love. Now, that's overly simplifying things, but do understand that those of us who understand we all come from an original source, we also understand that all of us came from that source. So when I harm my fellow man or even an animal, I am harming a part of what I am a part of. Therefore, I am creating a separation from source because that person, that animal, that tree is part of source. So anything I do not in alignment with love is creating a separation from source. Scientifically speaking, I am creating a quantum entanglement, whether it's positive or negative, is up to my thoughts, my words, and my actions. So let's apply that to a mental imbalance. There are many different types of mental imbalances. There is thoughts, there is words, there is actions in our physical, emotional, mental body, spiritual, financial, and relationship. When we bring harm to people, let's say in relationship, okay? Let's say we put some people down. We're very derogatory in our communication. We're emotionally abusive, as an example. Maybe not this lifetime, maybe a time you don't remember. But remember, you don't live forever, your soul does. And because your soul lives forever, the ability and opportunity for it to be the warehouse of those both positive and negative experiences, it doesn't just go away. So even though you might be an amazing and awesome person, you might not have always been in previous times. And in those previous times, if you were emotionally abusive, then you could have, for example, some mental issues. Okay? Now, typically, there's a variety of possibilities there. You have everything from negative mindsets, negative attitudes, and negative beliefs. These are all negative states of mind, right? You have ego, which can be, any range of ego, and then you have attachments, which is considered mindsets. Okay, and those are more along the advanced stage. So if you were a person that was looking towards enlightenment, then attachments and ego would be the stage you're working at releasing those kinds of things. Most of us were not there, right? We're dealing with negative mindsets, attitudes, and beliefs. We're dealing with people around us that have emotional imbalances or emotional issues. We're dealing with our own emotional issues, okay? And so although this is not emotions, they do contribute to and are connected to our mind-related blockages. And then you have a whole new set of mind-related issues. And when I say mind, I'm talking about not the brain, the mind. I'm talking about consciousness. Okay, I'm talking about the way we bring ourselves to humanity and to life. The mind blockages, psychologically speaking, they can have a huge range there. You can have depression, which is defined as an emotional imbalance, but it could also be mind related, right? You have bipolar disorders. You could have schizophrenia. You could have many different labels, if you will, for a significant mind-based disorder. Now, in this episode, what is the root cause of mental imbalances, mental being the key, imbalances? The root cause can truly be like trying to put your finger on a speck in the water that keeps moving around, right? You touch it and it moves away. Or you ever try to get the eggshell out of the egg that you put in the pan, right? You touch the egg and the shell moves away. So it's like that. When you try to put your finger on the root cause of mental imbalance, those who can access the Akashic records, those who can access the origination point of what might have originated that mental imbalance, they can say, yes, that's it right there. That was the action or the unpleasant effect that created the cause you're experiencing today. But in real life, in this life, and where we're at, most of us don't have access to the original spiritual point in time, the Akashic records. Of course, this is something that I can access, but generally speaking, it's not the normal. So how then do we work with an intangible, such as, well, how did this occur, and why is it creating bipolar in my life, or why is it creating schizophrenia in my life, or why is it creating a significant amount of negative mindsets and negative attitudes in my life? What can I do about it? That's what people want to know. They don't necessarily care about the originating point. They just want to know, how can they minimize it? How can they release it? Now, there's lots of room for discussion here around, well, my doctor said this. My doctor said the root cause was I grew up in a destructive household with an abusive parent. And that probably is exactly the right analysis. That probably is what occurred in your life. But Tao healing would say, what was the precursor to that unpleasant life you grew up in? Why did you grow up with an abusive mother or father? Why did you have these kinds of traumatic things happen that now affect your mind and create mental imbalances? You see, the difference between a medical diagnosis and a chemical imbalance, which again are all accurate and probably true. You cannot say they're not. And the pharmaceuticals and whatnot that is suggested do very often help a person at least operate in this regular world. So this is not to say anything negative about that entire industry. It is to say they do not know what that root is either. They just know how to placate or cover it up, or at least help you to process through life as best as possible. And in some cases, they have success, they being, again, the medical industry, with psychology, direct, straight-on psychology, and they help a person process through their pain and their suffering, the emotional imbalances that led to the way they mentally bring themselves to life. So all of this is very, very important to acknowledge and to recognize its value. And in the same breath, they do not have a high level of efficacy. Certainly the pharmaceutical approach is only a cover-up. I have yet to come across a pharmaceutical approach with these major mind-based imbalances that actually reverses it, heals it. I just have not. I have witnessed in Tao healing people completely reversing major medically diagnosed illnesses. Now, it's not overly common, but I absolutely have witnessed it. So, given that people have truly reversed major medical diagnosed illnesses, mental illnesses, how then is that possible with Tao healing? It is possible because Tao healing deals with these kinds of unique mental imbalances, which, again, as a reminder, I spoke earlier, are negative frequencies, information messages, negative vibrations that are on that individual's field. That person with that mental imbalance, they're psychotic or whatever is going on for them, that didn't accidentally get onto their aura. They put it there. It was self-imposed through their own negative thoughts, words, and actions. And this, again, is why Tao healing can sometimes be effective and occasionally be very effective, because ultimately it boils down to clearing the negativity off the field, which is exactly what Tao healing does. When somebody comes to me and they have medical diagnosed mental imbalances, one of the first things I say to them is, are you seeing a doctor? You need to make sure you're seeing a psychologist, a doctor, or somebody, because I don't have those authorities, those abilities. I don't have those degrees, and I'm not offering any medical advice. So I make sure that they have that base covered. And then I share with them this. I point out to them that according to the Tao wisdom, the reason they are suffering and what specifically they are suffering is highly likely to have been caused upon others in the same way that they are suffering. So what's a shorter way of saying that? What you give is what you get. What you sow is what you reap. I mean, I can say it many different ways. It's written in different ways in all the different spiritual literature that's out there for all the different belief systems. And the Buddhism, they call it karma, and, the sins of the father are visited upon the son, and blah, blah, blah. You can say it 1,000 different ways, but basically you earned it. So if a person comes to me and they have these kinds of imbalances, one of the first things that I try to get them to see without the creation of guilt, which is very important, is that in a time prior to this time, most likely, that they probably will never be able to remember, they have to take a level of responsibility for. And this can be hard. This can be very hard. Why should I take responsibility for something that I don't remember? I hear that one, probably one out of every 50 people that I have this conversation with. But the bottom line is, can you explain why when Tao healing is offered, why when a person does the forgiveness practice, traces calligraphy, receives Tao light balls, in essence, when they receive healing and support to remove the negativity that's on their soul's vibration, and they get better, how do you explain that? So whether that person wants to believe it or not is not really relevant. Truth is truth. Once I share with the person that regardless of how amazing, awesome of a person you are now, these occurred. These conditions occurred. And either you, or possibly your mom, dad, your grandma, grandpa, your great-great-great-grandparents, whatever, 7 generations back, our ancestors, just as we can get diabetes from them or heart issues from them, that's because, listen carefully, when somebody does harmful things, there's negativity on their frequency and vibration. It's in their space. The space affects the matter. Okay, scientifically, we are 99% space, 1% matter. The space affects the matter. If you have positive energy, frequency, and vibration, your matter will be radiating light. You will not die all that early. You'll have a good, happy life. If you or your ancestors have harmed others, took advantage of others, poisoned others, manipulated others, caused others to go mentally crazy through being abusive in some way, shape, or form, that is on your vibration. It's in your space, which then affects the matter. So when you hear science saying the diabetes came down through your grandparents to you, it's true. Same thing with mental things. Okay? If you look at people that have a psychosis, they often see it come down through into the kids. Why? Because it was on their vibration, which affected the space, which affects the DNA, which is then transferred into the next kid. So understand the bigger picture here. When you hear our mistakes or those of our ancestors, it's scientifically based. It's not just a cute statement. So it's really important to acknowledge that you might be an awesome person and you might have made some mistakes in previous time, but your ancestors could have been very unpleasant. And that frequency and vibration could come down into your field as well. You might not like hearing that. Again, it doesn't change the nature of those facts when it comes to the spiritual comprehension of the origination of this. Again, the title to this podcast is, what is the root of mental imbalances? These are the roots. I'm explaining to you what are the roots. The purpose of understanding what is the root of a mental imbalance is so that you can get a leg up on it. Those who have come to me that have mental imbalances, they're suffering. It's like an incessant fire hydrant of negativity, just blasting them all day long. How miserable would that be? Just misery upon misery, right? And there's no way to turn it off. And that's why they go to the pharmaceutical approach, because at the very least it numbs it and gives them an opportunity to process. So again, great value in those modalities. At least they give a person a chance to function and move forward. However, Tao healing acknowledges the necessity to address this root, because if it is not addressed, that mental-based problem has a very high possibility of following that person lifetime to lifetime to lifetime. In this lifetime they're Bob, next lifetime they're Mary, next lifetime they're Joan, next lifetime they're Steve. But they will be mentally screwed up again and again and again until there is rebalance in their field. There are some people watching this going, well, when's that balance? Will they ever be, how does the balance occur? Is God just going to make them suffer forever? Da, 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 da. That one statement, is God just going to make them suffer forever, is based in a misunderstanding of the nature of the source and the creator, at least according to the Tao wisdom that I've come to understand. You can choose to agree or not. The Tao wisdom I've come to understand is the source created all things. From the one came all. The left hand and the right hand are loved equally by the source. So if the right hand is just the most unpleasant person and the left hand is the most kind person, the source sees them with great equality, because they all come from the source. Now, the one that's very unpleasant, that harms the one over here, the source puts some laws in place, the laws of cause and effect. And so this one makes harm to this one, then this one has to experience what it's like to harm another, so that they can come eventually to the comprehension, maybe my suffering is happening for a reason. Maybe at a time I'm not sure of, I've done something out of balance to other, and now I'm experiencing it to bring about balance. And then that person eventually becomes balanced and eventually goes on and does good things on a consistent basis, and accordingly becomes fully enlightened, one with the love and the light of the original source. Healing a mental imbalance is a lifelong choice. The possibility of healing it quickly, certainly it's possible. But if I was to speak of this in terms of a Buddhist approach, it's very high-level karma. This is what my teacher shares. He says, if somebody has a major mental imbalance, schizophrenia, bipolar, whatever you might want to call it, again, the medical industry might say it's a chemical imbalance. Da, 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 da. Let them say what they want to say. It's not untrue, but what caused it, that's my point. It's a very high karma. Very high. That means it takes a lot of positive messages, information, frequency, a lot of Tao healing, and a lot of forgiveness, a lot of effort on behalf of the person that is hampered by this kind of a condition. They need to be willing, whether they understand it or not, to recognize that nothing is accidental, that they are experiencing the effect of an original cause. And they need to be very clear that the incessant yang, 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 yang that they're experiencing is a representation of the sheer negativity that was somebody else experienced as a result of their own negative thoughts, words, and actions, or those of their ancestors. Something very, very unpleasant had been done to others. Otherwise, why would a person have incessant negativity? Why would a person be so mentally imbalanced? Right? So the root cause is definable. And we don't have to know what has been done. We only need to look at what is the experience. And then, with the knowingness of the experience, that person can ask forgiveness. They can every day very commonly, the best approach is in the moment. When you have this negative, incessant thought, in the moment, you ask forgiveness for being negative to others. Whatever is going on with that negativity, you're nothing. You're nothing. You'll amount to nothing. You're a loser. Blah, 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 right? Please forgive me for ever convincing others, telling others they'll amount to nothing. They're a loser. Whatever that negativity is. Because that's typically the mirror. That's typically whatever you're experiencing is what others have experienced. And they were on the end of the beating stick. Now it's your turn. So if you want to remove this, that's your first self-healing step, is applying forgiveness in every moment. Real life example, Master David Lush, one of Master Sha's top teachers. If you choose to go and do some homework on this, you're welcome to. Diagnosed at the age of 10, I believe his age was, bipolar disorder. Had to touch everything, had to count to number 4 before he can do anything. And he can dial it into exactly when it occurred, but nevertheless, there was a root cause before that, which I know the root cause. I've heard it before. Master Sha checked the Akashic records and shared the root cause. And David suffered with that and suffered through the drugs, and he able to process through life, but it wasn't easy for him. He met Master Sha. Within 1 year of doing these higher level practices and receiving higher level blessings, he was able to function almost normal. He, of his own accord, with help of his doctor, weaned himself off of pharmaceuticals and has been operating basically normal for 15 or so years. And after about 18 years from the first diagnosis and seeing the doctor, he went back to that same doctor, and the doctor legally announced him no bipolar. How's that possible? It's irreversible according to medical science. Because what did David do? And what does he still do today? He asks forgiveness instantly. The minute negative thought comes up, nobody is perfect. Master Sha shared, one of the hardest things to accomplish is mind enlightenment, meaning you have no thought. So just as normal standing in a grocery store line to have both positive and negative thoughts. We all are human. But the one that is awake and aware is constantly watching the mind and is constantly saying, please forgive me. I was doing it, yesterday, probably caught myself 12 times, with a negative thought. So it's very human. If you want to heal your mental imbalances, find a Tao healer that is awake and aware and can explain it like I am. I can help you too, but maybe you're not interested in me. Maybe go find somebody that works for you. Great. But find a Tao healer and get Tao healing and get the education about how you can assist yourself to self-heal. I'm going to go more into that next week, the different ways you can heal. But today's subject was just to explain the origination of mental imbalances. So I want to give a shout out to my teacher, Dr. and Master Jigong Sha. You can learn all about him going to drsha.com. You can also come to my website, wellspringoflight.com. I do individual services, individual counseling. I have very special authorities and abilities to assist you by releasing this negative much faster. And again, no promises. It all takes a little bit of time, but historically speaking, it works. Okay? So I look forward to serving you. I look forward to seeing you next week when we go a little bit deeper into some specifics around this subject matter. I want to thank you all for coming. Make sure you like and subscribe on my podcast, my YouTube, and my other social medias. I'll see you all very soon. Have an awesome day. Bye-bye.